Without further ado, let's roll into what we have planned today. Again, we typically, when we do these member meetups, they're very informal. We love to have time to chat. We are recording this so that we're able to provide it to some folks who weren't able to make today's call. But essentially, what we wanted to do was to just provide a little bit of a heads up on what's happening with the conference this year. You already know it's in Dewey Beach. We're excited about that. Colleen's got her not dewy water, but a beach scene behind her to provide some inspiration. But I'd like to take a moment and introduce Lila Wagner, who is one of our speakers this year, and we love her. First of all, she is our girl. You may have heard her already at MASHSMD conferences. She speaks across the country. My favorite part is that her title is Chief Dot Connector, which I just think is like the best title anybody could have. And so, Lila, do you want to talk a little bit about certainly strategy for hire, but also too what you're going to be speaking about at MASHSMD, and maybe a little bit about why you, as somebody who's in Michigan, continue to come and support us in our annual conferences?
Yes, happy to, Stacy. Thank you. And it's great to see so many people on this call because I think some of the regional conferences or regional associations that I have gotten involved with across the country don't necessarily get this level of involvement. So I do have to give a big shout out to the MASHMED leadership, as well as just the value I think that people find in this association. So yes, as Stacy said, I am the Chief Dot Connector. I got to pick and name my own title when I started my business, and I really just didn't want to be boring. And I thought about what it is that I do. My business is called Strategy for Hire, which I started about a year and a half ago after a long, long career on both the agency and health system. And I'll just say client side, because I have done a lot of work in industries outside of healthcare as well, which can be kind of valuable to just take lessons learned from other industries as well. But almost 40 years working in healthcare marketing and communications in a lot of different types of settings. And as Stacy said, I find great value in being a member of regional organizations like MASHMED. I'm also a member of CHIPRMS, which is the Carolinas Society. I've attended NESHCO, which is the New England Society. I've spoken at Ishimpur. They all pronounce it a little bit differently in Illinois. From my perspective, certainly I work with clients across the country, and I've had experience with clients across the country, but I also find that these regional conferences just give that more intimate opportunity to really engage, to have in-depth conversations, to develop stronger relationships. I find great value at the national level as well, but really enjoy these regional conferences, and I'm super excited about the conference coming up. The content is always really insightful. I always learn something new and get to meet, new people, but also kind of reinvigorate established relationships. I think this will be my fifth MASHMED conference in a row. And I had never been before my first one, but I decided in that first year that this was going to be a not to miss conference, and that this was going to be one of those regional associations that I really wanted to stay connected with. So little preview of what I've got to speak at MASHMED a couple of years ago, I think. Couple of times I think we've spoken. The first year was on disruptors, I think, with Dean, actually, as well as the folks from Reason One, and that was a super fun one. This year I'm speaking with my friend and fellow passionate person about this topic, Melissa Forrest Shackelford, who you also may have seen either on LinkedIn or at one of the national conferences. Melissa comes from a background, lots of different types of organizations, but served with Hazelden Betty Ford. And we're talking about the importance of addressing stigma in healthcare marketing. Hazelden Betty Ford is a substance use disorder clinic, and I just have a personal interest in this space. I have a family member who deals with a lot of mental illness as well as substance use disorder. And we're talking about, what are the impacts of stigma in healthcare? And as marketers, why is it really important for us to understand this and to address it? So from an impact standpoint, things like patient access, right? Things like, are people not seeking care because they're concerned about how they're perceived? The quality of care that they receive based on bias, perhaps, that the providers might have that they don't even necessarily realize they have. And fundamentally, the outcomes are impacted by stigma. And so we want to talk a little bit about that. From a healthcare marketing standpoint, we really think that we, as this group of folks who are responsible for communicating, have a chance to really change outcomes by building trust, right? Allowing ourselves to change the way we communicate, think about what messages we're sending out into the world so that we can both build trust, but also increase engagement, think more effectively about how we communicate so that our message is both delivered and received. And we'll talk about things like, even from the fundamental, what is stigma? Why does it persist? And what kinds of effects it has? And then also get into examining language specific, what are the words that are getting used that might be stigmatizing and how could we maybe phrase these things differently? What are the visuals that we're using that tend to reinforce potentially negative stereotypes and increase stigma, even though we're trying to do something different? And the narratives, right? How can those inadvertently maybe reinforce those negative perceptions and create barriers to care when what we're really trying to do is improve access? So yeah, we're going to look at some real world examples. We want to really engage our audience and get some input from you all as to what have you seen, and let's discuss, how could that maybe be done differently. And ultimately, we hope that that will contribute to maybe more equitable healthcare in our communities and the people that we serve. So that's what we're planning.
Awesome. Such good stuff. I think one of the takeaways I have, Lila, in hearing about this is I feel, and I've seen you present several times with different folks, that MASHSMD gives us an opportunity to talk about issues, real-time, real-life issues that we're seeing in the healthcare space, whether they're patient issues or they're operational issues, whatever they might be, or they're government issues, and provide a forum where, as marketer, communicators, strategic planners, we're able to look at how our roles help impact, and to your point, help make a difference, hopefully, in the provision of care or the seeking of care, especially in an area like this, which is so sensitive. And so I say that for anybody who, this is your first time coming to our conference or on the fence about it. One of the things that the board really tries to do is to identify topic areas that we think would be of interest across the healthcare spectrum to our audience and to our members. And so, Mike McDonald and I come from the health information exchange side, which is much more data, much more IT. But we're very much interested in what is happening, for example, at a government level, or what's happening operationally, because the hospitals are who pay our bills. So we want to know, hey, what are the hospitals dealing with, and how do we make sure we're addressing those things or considering those things? So I say all of that to say, I think you'll see among the diversity of presenters and also the diversity of attendees that there is something here truly for everyone. I did want to kick it over if Dean or Colleen has anything they want to add to that, because I know we have another presenter we might want to hear a few words from, but I wanted to give you both the chance, especially Dean, since you've presented with Lila before. I just wanted to give you a chance if you had something you wanted to add.
I mean, aside from just how amazing Lila is, no, I would just add that yeah, I think you're spot on though. I think about one of the nimbleness that these kinds of regional forms allow, that I think the great big ones don't, is to be able to be reactive. I think to your point about what's going on, including even up until the weeks prior, being able to get in the room with experts in a small enough room that you can get a question in edgewise. And I think that's where it's going to be really great. And you know, few people are going to be as great and conversational as Lila when it comes to things like that. So.
And thank you, Colleen, for just dropping into the chat. The link on our website, we do have the full lineup of sessions and speakers, and you'll see that I think we're covering the gamut this year. Personally, I'm quite excited that we are going to shortly make an announcement about a special speaker that we have coming in, who will be speaking about, frankly, what's happening in DC and how that impacts us as healthcare organizations, as healthcare marketers. What are the things that are happening that may impact us beyond perhaps what we're already hearing about at our own institutions? And one of our desires by doing that was to bring in somebody who is an expert in that area, because we see an opportunity for good information that is actionable for us as marketers. And so that will be, I'm sure that person's presentation will be ever evolving right up until they walk in the door. But I say that to say this is really a great opportunity for us to not only talk about the sort of evergreen issues that face marketing and communications folks, but to also talk about what's happening right now. What do we need to be thinking about? So super excited to be able to bring that to the group. I did want to take a moment because she is on. Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'd be happy to.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Andrea Becker. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at WellSpan. Pleased to be one of the presenters at the upcoming conference. And I think this is such a cool way to introduce things because it makes it more three-dimensional listening to Layla talk about her topics. It's very interesting because I think myself and my co-presenter, Stacey Beers from Penn State Health, we're almost the other side of that coin. So your presentation is really about how to market and get around the stigma. We will be talking a little bit more on the leadership side of how to show up as a leader, but also how you can help your teams and your colleagues through some basically unimaginable things, but things that we go through life. I've started working on the presentation and I started listing out all the things that she and I have seen as leaders. And the list is significant, everything from addiction, substance use disorder, suicide, death of colleague, death of child. And it doesn't mean that she or I are special. It means that this just occurs. Everybody has things that happen in their life. And I think through what she and I have been through, we've talked quite a bit about, we think we can kind of give some firsthand tips on how to approach things that are awkward, that are sad, that are difficult. And I think it should just be a really good conversation because we know we don't corner the market on grief. I'm sure everyone will be coming to that presentation with their own story.
And you and I, of course, Andrea, had spent some time at a dinner hosted by one of our friends, talking a lot about that. And again, I think for us as leaders, and that's so important too, it's that nobody teaches you any of that when you're going through your MBA program or when you first become a supervisor. And it's not until you're unfortunately in those positions where you say, oh my gosh, I don't know how to help support my team in this, or I'm dealing with this. How do I still show up as the professional that I need to be? But also, what resources are out there? How can I avail myself of what is out there to help me through a situation like this? And I will say, certainly, I've had a couple of those over the course of my career and have really sat with me and stuck with me. And like you said, it's we don't have the market cornered on grief. Unfortunately, these things happen. So I'm really so pleased actually to be able to sort of buttress your two presentations because as the team can see here, we have so much to offer with this conference. I will say that we'll have some lighter topics too, gang. So don't don't be too concerned that, you know, it's going to be really heavy. No, we try and balance, but we're really excited to have everybody joining us. And certainly too, as I look at this group that's on today, I'm eager to see what you all bring to the table. And so with that, I mean, I open it up to our whole team today. If anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, by all means, ask away.
I'll just throw out there, you know, as Andrea said, she's working on her presentation. We are working on ours as well. So if anybody has, like, we really want to hear about this particular aspect, please, you know, let us know that so that we're making this as relevant and as timely for you as we can.
That's great. I'm just impressed you're all already working on your presentations.
Yes, we are.
I definitely
good.
left it to last minute when I spoke last year. I was like, oh, that conference is in 3 weeks. I need to get my deck together.
Anything, Taylor? It looks like we've got Alan on. Anything, folks, that you all, Margaret, have any interest in or want to hear more about? And that's okay if the answer is no. Go on.
And so it was just good to hear everybody speak about it.
Wonderful. Good, good. Well, we do have, I did want to take this moment, and Colleen, if you wouldn't mind being, I know this is such a dated reference, my Vanna White, although Vanna's still on and is making more money, I'm glad to say. We have some entertainment lined up, thanks to Dean and some of his other creative folks, for the midweek conference. And I do want to take a moment to say that while we're all here, we are not just here to learn. We are here to network. We love it. We are excited to welcome you all on that Tuesday, the 13th, with what is looking to be, if the weather permits, a lovely outdoor reception on the bay, right outside the hotel, where we will have our signature drink here in Delaware, the Orange Crush.
Yeah,
and
that's my question. What is the crush bar?
Well, darling, let me tell you. So the Crush Bar, so the Orange Crush folks, and feel free, anybody else who wants to chime in on this. The Orange Crush, Delaware seems to think we have the market cornered on, but Maryland also argues that it's their drink. So there's a whole thing going on. But essentially, I'm guessing that the Crush Bar will be multiple kinds of vodka and a whole lot of fresh squeezed oranges. So get ready, gang. And then for any of us who are teetotalers, of course, there'll be plenty of other options, but the Orange Crush is truly Dewey's calling card. But it's a great time, folks. If you're able to get in early on Tuesday and do that happy hour with us, you can meet folks. To Lila's point, it's a great time to network. Last year when we were in Richmond, Dean, through his role with, yes, the Starboard does, Dean in his role with the Poe Museum hosted our welcome reception, and it was phenomenal. We had a great, learned a lot about Edgar Allan Poe and his connection to Richmond, but then also too, just an opportunity for us all to chat and see each other. So really, if you're able to be there on Tuesday, great. Look forward to having a little bit of a reception with you. And then, as we've indicated here, each night of the conference, we encourage folks to do casual dinner meetups. And so everything in Dewey is in walking distance, absolutely everything. So do bring comfortable shoes. Thank you, Vanna. But you can see it's a very condensed. I think it's a mile, exactly a mile from top to bottom. So you can walk everywhere, lots of good restaurant options. Happy to give some to folks if you've got any questions. But on this wonderful map that Dean and crew developed, you'll be able to get your bearings and see where you need to be. So we make sure that during the conference, you've got plenty of time on your own to do other things. But like I said, if you're coming to town and you don't know anybody, every night at 6 o'clock, we'll have people meeting up to head out to dinner. So we try and make it very inclusive and fun. And Colleen, if you'll scroll back up, I just want to add 2 more points. Our very own Mike McDonald, who now is like our chief run officer, I'm going to call him. Since Lila's making up titles, I'm going to make up Mike's. He will be, and a couple of other folks will be leading us on morning runs. So usually the first morning, that Wednesday, we'll do one, and then possibly if folks are interested. So Mike, I know you're ready. I know you're training for it. This is important work that you're doing.
Absolutely.
And we're all very grateful. And again, that's a really easy 5K run, all paces. You can do as much or as little as you want. It'll be an out and back. Again, it's a very easy area to navigate for that kind of thing. And
it's maybe like a dozen people that get up that early to go running. It's no pressure to run if you're not a runner like me.
It's yes. And again, our hotel footprint, some of you who've been with us when we were in Philly or prior to that, when we were in DC, sometimes when you stay in these really huge hotels like MASHSMD Conference and HIMSS and all these, you're like constantly from one end to the other. this is super easy. So one of the things that I really value with this is the opportunity to be able to make plans to meet up with people, grab coffee, grab snacks, and actually be able to find people. So, over those 72 hours, I think there's a lot to offer. We are going to be on the bay, on the Rehoboth Bay, which is lovely. But it is just a quick jaunt across the street to the Atlantic Ocean. So you get the benefits of both worlds while you're in Dewey. So I will continue to pray to the weather gods, and we look forward to bringing you a lot more details as we get closer to the conference. But just wanted to take an opportunity today to at least get you all excited about it, and to, again, provide an opportunity for people to ask questions or share comments if you have any. All right, just scroll through here. Nope, nobody's raising hands. So I'm guessing I've answered all of your questions. Colleen, do you want to add anything, or anybody else from MASHSMD?
I can't wait, but no, I'm not packing. I know it's on your packing list, Dean, but I'm not packing a swimsuit. The Atlantic Ocean in early May is a little too cold for me. Sorry.
Little too cold, but
It doesn't
for
look
the
like this
ambitious,
beautiful beach
though.
behind me, so no.
You know what? You never know how hot it's going to be. It's like 85 in Richmond this weekend. So, you never know.
And up here in the Northeast next week, it's supposed to be 44 for a high. So,
It's a month away. Who knows?
I don't know. And Lila had an ice storm in Michigan last week.
Yeah,
So
but
you
then
never know.
it'll be 70 next week. Who knows?
probably.
We can't count on the weather, but we can count on each other. How's that?
So
Yeah,
Dean, I know
said.
you're a beer drinker. Is anybody else going to Dewey Beer Co?
I will be
Nikki is. All
definitely at
right,
some-
Andrea.
Mike
All
is.
right,
I
we're gonna
just
plan a
watched
little
Mike
beer
mention.
outing. If any of my
Nikki
beer
can
people want
be
to plan a
your
meetup, let's
guide
do it.
for that. Yes.
Their
You
fruit
need to go to
beers
Dewey
are
Beer
great.
Company.
They're nice, like a nice mid to high ABV, and they've got like some really cool fruity sour milkshake type. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's in walking
Excellent.
distance, I hope.
Yes.
Or Uber
Don't you
distance.
worry. For those who are traveling, I do want to just make a note about this. My people who are flying in, I hopefully already have their flights arranged. If you're driving in, Bay Bridge, that kind of thing, there is expected, you always have traffic. And so I would just say that, please plan accordingly. We are a small beach town, but getting there, you've got a few 2-lane roads you'll be on. So make sure you allow enough time. But there is ample parking under the hotel. And again, shouldn't be any issue. Once you're here, you don't need to drive anywhere. So we try and make it pretty easy on everyone.
I have a quick
All right.
question.
Sure.
Schedules. So you said happy hour Tuesday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, what time? How late do we go on Thursday?
Colleen, I think we said 2 p.m. Up until 2 is our last, maybe 1:45, our last session. So we typically do our awards lunch, and then we do one more session post. So we understand people have travel commitments and all, but we will wrap up early in the afternoon for that reason. And again,
Yes, 2
if
p.m. You are right. If we followed last
good.
year's schedule exactly, we ended at 2
Yep.
p.m.
We found that worked for people. They were still able to stay. Anything later than that, you start to get into travel. So, and I do know some folks who are staying for the weekend who said, look, I want to take advantage of being at the beach. So
it was very tempting. It was very tempting, but I'm looking forward to this session. It will be my 3rd conference, and
Good.
just a really nice conference, great people, networking, and I'm so looking forward to attending again.